Our next speaker is Sonia Aggarwal. Sonia is the Special Assistant to President Biden for Climate Policy, Innovation, and Deployment. And she has served in the first ever White House Office of Domestic Climate Policy since day one of the Biden and Harris administration. Prior to working at the White House, Sonia was the co-founder and the vice president of Energy Innovation, where she acted as the founding executive director of the Climate Imperative Project and directed the team that developed the open source energy policy simulator, which analyzes the environmental, economic, and public health impacts of climate and energy policies. Sonia, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me, Johanna and Lisa. And I agree with everything that you said at the top, as well as you, Tony, and really appreciate all the work that has gone into this very cool new dashboard. So I will talk a little bit about the federal policy angle of all of this, but I also just want to say at the top that I completely agree this is a partnership between all of the leaders across all of society to make this happen, because we need to be moving further, faster in order to meet our climate goals, as Tony so eloquently said at the end of his remarks. So just to start on the president's view on all of this, he campaigned on a bold vision to tackle the climate crisis in a way that we have never seen from a U.S. president before. He promised to restore our leadership on climate and build a clean energy economy that will benefit all Americans, an economy that lowers costs for families, provides good paying jobs for workers, and delivers healthier air and cleaner water for all of our communities. And he committed to that clean energy and climate progress clearly on day one when we re-entered the Paris Agreement. We codified for the first time in history a federal target of reaching net zero economy-wide emissions by no later than 2050. We also codified in executive order, our target of 100% carbon pollution-free electricity by 2035, a world-leading target that now other countries have begun to adopt. And he followed that up just in the coming months after with a target for 30 gigawatts of offshore wind operating in America's waters by 2030. That is just to encourage, as a part of that 100% clean electricity mix, our diverse set of energy resources, and to try to give a boost to an industry that now we are seeing really begin to take off under this administration, and we know will be an important part of our energy mix. On Earth Day, he then followed that up with a target to cut economy-wide greenhouse gases by 50 to 52% below 2005 levels in 2030. And I'll just point out that is a faster reduction rate during this decisive decade than would be required to be on a linear trajectory to our net zero target by 2050. So the president understands the extreme urgency of our climate crisis and the availability of incredible clean energy resources that can help us meet those targets in the near term. So that's why we also continue to work with Congress to secure the bipartisan infrastructure law later that year, which at the time was our nation's largest ever investment in strengthening resilience, in cleaning up legacy pollution, in building our clean power grid, and many more topics that lay the groundwork for our further action. And that year, we set a record, bringing on enough new solar and wind projects to power 10 million homes. And it's really just so great to see tools like this one that you all are presenting today to help make sure that we understand whether we are on track, moving fast enough to actually hit our overall goals. Clean energy is now the biggest job creator in America's energy sector, with over 3 million Americans employed in clean energy jobs in 2021, which is why the president is so excited to continue the work in this area and worked so hard to land the Inflation Reduction Act with Congress, which is the most significant climate legislation in U.S. history, projected to have 10 times the climate impact of the next highest impact legislation in terms of climate. It positions the United States to meet our climate goals and bring down consumer energy costs at the same time, increase our energy security through more clean energy production and investment in clean energy manufacturing here in the United States. So even as we continue to advance additional federal executive actions to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and hit those 2030 targets, we are incredibly focused on implementing all of these new historic policies, the bipartisan infrastructure law, the Inflation Reduction Act, to drive the largest possible climate impact and the most clean energy deployment that we can in the coming years, as is, of course, the subject of today's conversation. And we are very much looking forward to continuing our work with states, with cities, with tribes, NGOs, and community groups across America to make this, to make the most of this once in a generation truly opportunity to shift our economy to clean energy and reap all of the benefits that come along with that in terms of public health, in terms of economic benefits, cost savings, jobs, and the climate benefits. So thank you for having me today. And I look forward to all the more work that we will all do together in the future.
Sonia, thank you so much for joining us. And if you see President Biden, please thank him on our behalf for all of his leadership on this issue.